Story 1. She mocked and mimicked how my mother talked as a joke. My mother literally had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and could not articulate properly. Story 2. First date. We sat down at a table for dinner, and the previous customer's tip was still there. She picked it up and put it in her purse. Story 3. Years ago, I worked at a coffee shop and a cute regular customer used to come in. I developed a huge crush on him. Then he got a job at the same place where I worked, and he was the most whiny, laziest worker. That was about it. Story 4. He made fun of people who get excited about small things. Like, brother, if you cannot be happy over a $5 milkshake or a sunset, what do you feel? Story 5. When they show no genuine curiosity about me, and every conversation is only about themselves, my interest dies instantly. Story 6. I did not realize this place was special education to me, within earshot of the waitress who had brought us our coffees on our first date. I got up, paid for my coffee, and tipped the waitress. Here in Australia, tipping is not mandatory. I apologized for my terrible taste in dates. The waitress had Down syndrome. She was bubbly and helpful the whole time. The only mistake anyone made that night was mine. Story 7. She said I was unambitious because I work a 9-to-5 job, while she lives off her parents' money and stays in bed all day. Story 8. We ate in the car, and on our way back home she opened the window and threw the armful of trash out the window without warning. Completely unacceptable behavior. Story 9. She told me she found a deceased homeless man with her friend, and they proceeded to dance on him and take selfies. Story 10. Her dog defecated in her bedroom, and she just put a paper towel over it. I was barefoot and stepped in it. Story 11. He complained about everything. If he could not find something to complain about, he would make something up so he could complain about that. I cannot support that compulsive need to be miserable. Story 12. He was a prison guard and bragged about physically harming his inmates in subtle ways that he could get away with. Story 13. I was on a date, and as we were walking to our destination, I noticed a homeless man struggling to step up onto a curb. I walked over and helped him up. It all lasted less than 30 seconds. My date was absolutely disgusted that I would touch a homeless person. She was convinced I was covered in urine and acted strangely for the rest of the date. We did not go on a second date. It was mutual. Story 14. Codependent with his mother. He seemed like a nice guy, a bit immature but did not seem too bad at first. After a few dates, he started insisting that his mother join in on everything. Story 15. She made fun of me for having an interest in music. She said that was something for people who are not manly enough. I have never lost interest in someone so quickly. Edit. Let me clarify, I play an instrument. She thought that playing an instrument was not manly. Story 16. He told me he was single, then revealed he lives with someone who believes they are still in a relationship even though he is finished. Story 17. Lying about his height and then getting mad at women for being lied to. Matched online and he told me he was short, like 5 feet 6 inches on a good day. I said that's totally fine because I'm 5 feet 3 inches, so I don't mind that at all. He showed up and was absolutely 5 feet 0 or 5 feet 1 inches. I thought I'd give him a chance anyway. He spent the date talking about how shallow women are because they don't like that he's short. Maybe, my guy, we don't like that you lie to us. Story 18. The guy I was dating bought me a 1-month anniversary present, a lantern he was trying to make himself but broke in the process. He gave it to me and then said he wanted the money for it. What the heck? Story 19. After I spent 4.5 hours on a train, he was not there when I arrived. He did not answer texts or calls. After 15 minutes, he said he was just around the corner. He was not. It took another 15 to 20 minutes before he actually showed up. This was around 11:30 p.m. in a city I had only been to twice as a lone female, and he did not even bother to text that he was late. He was late the other times too, but not as much. When he arrived, I cried. Not heavily, just hard to speak because my throat was tight, and I felt hurt. When he tried to joke it away, he then laughed at me for crying. In that very second, every ounce of attraction was gone for him. Story 20. I felt like I was begging for his attention and demanding his time and presence. Then I remembered how I was treated in my recent past relationship and how I cried a lot. I promised myself I would not let myself be in the same situation again. Story 21. When you are a good listener, but the people you hang out with never reciprocate and keep talking about themselves all the time beyond a point when they are consistent in their behavior, you no longer want to meet them. Absolute zero curiosity about the other person or to hear them out is a buzzkill. It is the same when someone lies about things, and then when you call them out, they blame you and act like the victim. So immature. Story 22. Trying to move too fast after only 3 days of messaging and saying things you would only say to an actual girlfriend or boyfriend. Story 23. He felt entitled to shove an elderly woman out of his way. He was also bad at apologizing. I'm sorry, but… Story 24. When I was dating, the big turnoff for me was a guy being a complainer. He spent the whole first date complaining about his mother, his job, and so on. I could not get away fast enough. Story 25. I am mixed race, black and white, and I was talking to a boy who was dark-skinned. One day, out of nowhere, he said he was glad I was not dark because my skin color is perfect. He started making comments about how dark-skinned women are unattractive and that he would never date one. His mother is a dark-skinned woman. I immediately lost all interest and feelings for him and never spoke to him again. Colorism is disgusting. Story 26. She would always talk about her irritable bowel syndrome issues. I can sympathize, but talking about your literal stool half the time, especially when we are still just getting to know each other, is not exactly a turn-on. Story 27. She smoked a cigarette outside my house, which was already a red flag, and threw the butt in my garden without any hesitation. It was like a movie where the butt spun through the air in slow motion, and the camera cut to my face also in slow motion, making a single, telling, and extended blink. Story 28. In the early 2000s, I broke up with the most beautiful girl I ever dated. By a mile. I mean, supermodel beautiful. She was authentic, sweet, true, and loyal. But she was so unintelligent that she could not even place a question mark correctly in a sentence. She misspelled every single word in an email. Simply unintelligent. 25 years later, I am sitting here realizing who the unintelligent one really was. Story 29. Every activity we did had to include alcohol. Not only that, but she would get drunk almost every time we drank. I don't know how she was able to run marathons being such an alcoholic. Story 30. The depressing, hoarding trash pile mess of a filthy bedroom my ex lived in. She refused to let me go under her bed or look behind it to clean because she would just get angry and throw all the wrappers underneath. It was like she lived in a dump. Story 31. Anytime a man is very excited about me after the first date, sending hearts, bringing up marriage and children, it instantly shows that he is building an idealized version of me in his mind that I will never live up to. He does not know me well enough to be that excited about me yet. He does not know me at all. This scares me as someone who dated an actual narcissist. I cannot stand being idealized. Story 32. The last boyfriend I had before I met my now husband and I went to a festival. It was a long day, and it was tough for him to find a place to smoke. We were both cranky, but as we were leaving the festival, there was a group of people catching us as we went out and asking questions, doing public opinion surveys. He snapped at the person who was doing poor poll work for probably low pay. I don't know if it was just the end of the relationship happening anyway, but how he treated that random person just doing their job made me think, no thanks anymore. Story 33. He said he needed to talk to me more and missed our conversations, then proceeded to not speak to me for days on end. Words do not mean anything, your actions do. Story 34. We come from different races. He constantly looked down on my skin tone and cracked racist jokes. Initially, it was all in good fun, but later it became quite insulting, constantly tearing me down and my culture. I left. Story 35. A sexual partner once told me that she lost interest after finding out I had a previous sexual partner with whom we were both acquainted. Story 36. He talks only about girls making money on OnlyFans. If you want, you can do it too. Story 37. Too superficial. He always needed to wear designer clothes, have a fancy watch, and let everyone know within minutes of talking to him that he went to Stanford. He said he never liked to keep a car for more than a year. He would lease them, and it always had to be an expensive car. Story 38. Her inability to take accountability and offer a sincere apology for her actions is very self-absorbed and hypocritical. Story 39. We were out drinking with some friends. She proceeded to get drunk and snatched my drink from my hand and chugged it, which would have been fine and could even be taken as a joke if she had not then thrown up on the floor. Story 40. Once I was at a guy's house. He still lived with his mother, and the family dog defecated in his mother's room. Instead of taking care of it, he said she would handle it when she got home. An unwillingness to take responsibility is an instant no for me. Story 41. I barely knew this girl, and she was talking about her bedroom desires. She really wanted me to wake her up in the morning by giving her oral sex. I asked if she would reciprocate, and she said only when we are living together and engaged to be married. I barely knew her, and she was planning a life with me. Story 42. She tried to feed my dog antifreeze. She hated my dog because I spent too much time with my puppy. I went to visit my dad for 2 weeks, brought my dog, and came back to find a brand new unopened bottle of antifreeze in her closet. When I asked why it was there, I received many accusations and strange statements. Then it dawned on me. She had once drunkenly bragged about bleaching a guy's saltwater tank before she ended their relationship. I immediately left with my puppy, spent the night in a hotel, came back the next day, moved everything out of that house, blocked her number and social media, and hoped to never hear from her again. It took me a year and moving 5 states away to finally stop hearing from her. My puppy is still safe and happy. Story 43. One of my brother's friends asked me out. This should have been my first red flag. An hour before the date, he asked if I could pick him up. I agreed, and we had a decent meal. As we were leaving, he asked if we could hang out at my place until his cousin returned to let him in. I said that was fine. Then he asked if I would stop at the gas station. I agreed since it was on the way. When we got back to my place, he took out a bottle of Crown Royal, which I assumed he had picked up from the gas station, and started drinking. Then he called his child's mother and started arguing with her. I told him it was time to leave and that I would drop him off since I had already agreed to that. I declined a second date. Story 44. When he mocked an older, kind man in my seminar who was pursuing his degree in history, my father was right in his evaluation of that man. Story 45. Every third word was bro. Made me want to punch him right in the face. Story 46. Dating someone who always wanted to argue or play devil's advocate in the smallest conversations. He also stopped believing in God and became an abusive alcoholic. Story 47. The girl kept talking negatively about every couple walking around the mall on our first date, almost as if it were a challenge to say something each time. Needless to say, there was no second date. Story 48. Finding out she was racist after about 2 months together. She had Hispanic neighbors who were good people in all my interactions with them. Never caused a single problem, just good neighbors. I was outside having a smoke, and they were having a cookout and asked if we wanted some food. I said yes and went inside to see if she and the kids wanted some. She immediately reacted, saying, "Why would you ask that? I don't want their dirty food. They are disgusting and need to be deported." Expressing racist views. She had never shown anything like that before. Story 49. Her exuberant support of Make America Great Again. I was not always a political person, but to me, it seems we have different core values. Story 50. We had been talking online for a few days about how intelligent cephalopods are. Then she suddenly started spouting nonsense about the flat earth and 5th-generation wireless technology being used to brainwash people. Story 51. She never let me off the phone for any reason. She did not like me talking to my friends. She would accuse me of everything if I was not on my phone and finally decided to copy my texting style as a punishment. She was a human resources manager. Now I know why human resources people are so messed up. Story 52. Me, male 26, so what do you want to do in life? What are your goals? Her, female 22, well, I would really like to go to more raves. It was unfortunate because she was a regular at my job and I had a massive crush on her for 2 years. I finally asked her out, and this was part of a conversation we had after a few dates. Story 53. He told me if I ever became pregnant, I would be getting an abortion. I told him I could never do that, and he said that I could and would, and that he would pay for it, take me there, and make sure I was okay. Story 54. She likes aggressive and dominant men, which is how she refers to bullies, as if to compliment them. Story 55. She brought her child to our first date, was clearly a hoarder, and her apartment smelled of trash and cat urine. Story 56. He left a $1 tip for the server at the restaurant, stating, "They make enough money. I don't need to tip them. Keep in mind we split the bill." Story 57. They trolled children online. I do not understand how people find joy in hacking games to terrorize innocent players. Story 58. She was rude to an employee at a store because something she ordered was running late. Not just the normal low emotional intelligence, loud sighing, and huffing that far too many people think is okay. She got angry and yelled at them. I stayed behind and apologized to the employee, then stopped calling her. We were not dating, but I was working on making it happen before that. Story 59. I thought we shared a special bond and that we both wanted a future together. It turns out she was just lonely and wanted to pretend she was in a relationship. Story 60. She showed up dressed to impress. Hair, makeup, tight dress. She got upset because I wasn't ready. We didn't have plans. Story 61. When she blamed me for how messed up her life was, it was always my fault she could not afford rent. She barely ever worked and was constantly losing clients. She constantly said it was my fault she could not afford rent because I decided against moving in with her after only dating for a few weeks. She wanted me to sign a 2-year lease and move into a house where I would have to pay double my current rent and would essentially become a babysitter for her 3 children. Story 62. I am an atheist, but if you are not, I am okay with it. What I am not okay with is when you say Jesus is number 1 in your life and your son comes second, a dead man coming before your child. Story 63. When they become too clingy too quickly and make you feel guilty or ashamed for not wanting to hang out as much as they do. W. Can you please respect boundaries? Story 64. Driving home from dinner on our second date. A squirrel almost gets run over trying to cross oncoming traffic. I point it out, and she laughs and says, "Too bad. Forget those little tree rats." Story 65. Discovering he was a hoarder, I loved him enough to marry him until I saw his apartment. I could only have married him if we lived apart. Story 66. She and I both came from families with alcoholics. Her mother was in a very difficult situation while we were in college, and my mother had just divorced my stepfather at the time. She honestly thought that since my parent was not related to me by blood, the pain was not as meaningful and did not have as much sympathy for me as I did for her. It really left a bad taste in my mouth. Story 67. When they acted like an entirely different person around other people than with just me. You want to be sweet and thoughtful, then act rude in front of your friends. That does not make you look cool. It makes you look like you are behind me. Story 68. I had this boyfriend, now ex, who told me, "I think it's definitely your fault because you were not careful." When I told him about that creepy old man on the bus, and a man who randomly grabbed my butt outside my university, all the memories and love from 11 months were washed away from that moment. Story 69. She told me she spent upwards of $1,000 per month on marijuana, while her parents were paying for her rent. Story 70. He was harshly judging a man who was experiencing social anxiety and called him weak. I thought that was wrong because I saw a man facing his fears. I saw that as a strength. He was very judgmental and harsh toward other people, including me, so I ended it with him. Story 71. Not feeling liked for who I am, I cannot see myself truly valued by them. There is disconnection and a lack of mutual interest or connection despite all the difficult things that have happened. I also fear losing myself in the process by accepting things I simply cannot accept. Story 72. Me. So what hobbies do you have? Him. Oh, I like Warhammer. Me. Oh, neat, what's your favorite faction? Him. I don't care about it that much. Me, oh, okay. Him, me talks about random things. Him, random grunts, definitely not listening. Me, isn't it crazy how trees look like hands? Him, tries to put his arm around me. Yeah, no. I saw him a few more times after that, but it only got worse. Story 73. He started venting to me via text about his life, traumas, and problems that continued to escalate until it reached a scary point. I always make myself available to the people in my life for emotional support when I have the energy, but this was on another level. Text after angry text, going off about whatever was making him upset at the moment after talking to him for only a few weeks. I lost interest quickly, but still tried to support him through whatever he was going through. I was a brand new therapist out of graduate school and was very loose on my boundaries back then, thinking I could help him. I finally blocked him when he said something like, "One day I'm going to snap and hurt someone." Scary person. Story 74. I felt like I was his mother. He would not clean, shower, or get a job without me having to tell him to. Even then, he would throw fits like a child because he did not want to do anything that adults do. Story 75. They constantly made fun of me for anything and everything. My job, my hobbies, how I live in the world. It is not flirting. It is your low self-esteem and general disrespect for other people pouring out of your face in place of a personality. If everything about me is so stupid, leave me alone. Story 76. We were hiking on a very overgrown trail. He was in front and I was right behind. Several times he pushed back large branches and young trees, but instead of holding them back until I reached him or warning me, he let them whip back into my face. This was a huge red flag. Story 77. He looked down on my parents for the type of jobs they had done. My parents were and still are hard workers despite being of retirement age. I am very proud of their work ethic and grateful for all they have done to provide for me and my siblings over the years. Needless to say, he was not long being kicked to the curb for his disgusting attitude towards people who do manual labor jobs. Story 78. The girl I met my first year in college at a mixer event that our dorm resident assistant set up as a sort of speed dating activity was flirting with me a lot, and we were really hitting it off. Then she said the classic, "I have a boyfriend." Oof. It is also possible I misread the situation, but I am not going to lie, it stung at the time. Story 79. There was a really cute girl at work once. We started talking by email and found out we shared a lot of similar interests. I invited her to lunch. Lunch was good, and we had a good conversation. After it was over, she gave me a hug to thank me for lunch, and that's when I smelled her breath. It was foul. Then she lit up a cigarette, and it all made sense. I immediately lost interest. Story 80. I was flirting with a girl, and we went to her place on a perfect summer night after hanging out through friends a couple of times. We were just about to go to bed and were talking about food when she mentioned she loved mayonnaise. Then she said she ate so much mayonnaise that her whole body was basically mayonnaise. This gave me a mental picture of squeezing her body and mayonnaise pouring out like popping a zit. All my attraction instantly died. Story 81. The guy I used to really like once told me he broke up with a girl because she had plaque on her tongue. I honestly do not know how bad it was, but I remember thinking, that comment definitely stuck with me and made me self-conscious about my own tongue. I have some plaque too, likely due to my gastrointestinal issues, and it is something I cannot fully control. Story 82. He was very good looking and a nice guy. I had a major crush on him. When we began to date, he just wanted to sit on my couch, watch television, and drink beer. I soon got very bored. I think I imagined he was exciting because I had strong feelings for him for a couple of years. Unfortunately, it was all in my mind. We were not compatible, although he wanted to stay together. Story 83. Victim mentality mixed with a bit of delusion of grandeur. For some reason, she thought it was okay to continue asking for money when I told her I was trying to set healthier boundaries. She also tried guilting me into committing insurance fraud since she never had insurance before, in the same conversation where she said friends would want the best for each other. She did not see the irony. The delusion of grandeur comes more from the fact that she honestly believes she is going to be famous. Story 84. He slapped me across the face when I disagreed with his point and said if I ever did it again, it would be worse. Apparently, all women must blindly agree with their partner. Story 85. I was dating a girl who was pretty in an unconventional way, but we had been on 9 dates and she hadn't offered to pay for anything. I don't mind paying for dates most of the time, but it would have been nice if she had offered or even said, "Hey, I'm broke," or something. On the 9th date, it started to bother me a bit. When we were waiting in line for tacos, she held my arm and said, "This is great. You can pay for our dates, and I can cook for you at home." Her cooking was bad, and it kind of doomed the relationship for me. Story 86. I heard him talk to a customer service representative trying to schedule a delivery. He was so awful to her for absolutely no reason, and I never went on another date with him. Story 87. He put ketamine in my drink at the bar on the day of his birthday. He thought it was a good plan. He proceeded to tell me he still wanted to stay after I had vomited all over myself and wanted to go home. So I found a cab. He hopped on, and at this point I felt relaxed. I told him, "It's over. Get out." He left without questioning anything. The rest of the ride was unbelievable. I felt at peace. He did call nonstop later that night and sent me a text where he insulted me. Then he crossed the line forever by insulting my deceased father. I am staying single. Story 88. My friend became very religious, to the extent that we cannot have a simple conversation without some kind of religious interference. Story 89. Back when I was with a very abusive ex, I tolerated it. The physical and mental emotional abuse, the constant talking negatively about me to my closest friends, with me right there, making up lies, but I tolerated it all. The final straw was when my godfather, uncle, and very close family friend died of cancer. I went to his funeral while she wanted to go out to the mall and the movies. She came with me and completely harassed me throughout the entire funeral service. On top of that, she got angry with me for going up to his coffin to say a final goodbye. She was angry with me for sticking around to chat with my 2 closest friends, this man's 2 children, who are like family to me. They had already lost their mother and grandparents, and it was just them now. I was just trying to be there for them and be supportive. This girl gave me absolute hell over it and held it over my head for weeks. Thank God I left her 3 months after this. Story 90. Thinking she knew everything because she went to medical school. In the end, though, she never made it into the field of medicine. Story 91. The time he was 2 hours late to my 23rd birthday celebration because he was taking ecstasy with the then 35-year-old woman with whom he was cheating. I trusted that they were friends and that she hung out at our home. He showed up completely intoxicated after having driven for half an hour, then was mad at me for being upset. He ruined the entire night and my family dinner the next day. Edited to add, I am a mother in my late 30s now and have had several good relationships since then. I learned. Story 92. Halfway through the first date, I realized that they were incredibly lazy and that I had a significantly higher intelligence quotient than the person. They told me they didn't finish 8th grade because going to school was too much work and started too early. Story 93. There was a girl who really liked me and I had a passing interest. One time we were drinking with some friends, and she ended up stripping naked. It kind of killed whatever attraction I had for her because the lack of inhibition turned me off. She was fairly good looking and it would have been an easy hookup, but I did not like the idea of being with someone who was that easy. Story 94. There was a girl during coronavirus disease that started working at the grocery store I frequent. She looked cute enough until masking went away and revealed that she had serious dental issues caused by methamphetamine use. Story 95. Vegetarian or vegan is not a moral judgment. I eat a lot of meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and dairy. Having to make a whole second meal or choose a place to eat based on having a special menu is an expensive, time-consuming, lifelong lifestyle I do not want to invest in. I suppose I am a bit selfish. Story 96. Narcissism. He couldn't say happy birthday to me during my cancer treatment. He was my friend of 10 years and boyfriend of 1 year. He also laughed at me and told me to pay for our drinks. I am a single mom and he has plenty of money. We are no longer speaking. Story 97. Approximately 35 years ago, we went to see Do the Right Thing. I thought it was amazing. She thought there was too much swearing. In retrospect, I should probably have ended it right there, but it seemed a bit petty at the time. However, I knew it would not last, and it did not. Story 98. He was jealous about my past and would judge me or try to make me jealous back when I really did not care. Story 99. I dated a girl briefly in college. She was experiencing some internal emotional conflict and very earnestly said, "I'm just like Clementine from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind." I was finished. Story 100. She did not like cute things, any kind of cute things. She told me a funny story about passing out drunk and not remembering what happened at a party one time, complete with a picture her friend took. She was face down with her shirt off, surrounded by about 30 people. Story 101. Went to her apartment for the first time and it was like she lived in a trash can. Not a busy week, haven't done the dishes yet kind of thing, but more I'm done with this, and drop it on the floor. This is how I live kind of thing. Cat litter tracked through the entire house. I had just ended a relationship with a woman who had bad hoarding tendencies, so I couldn't do it. Story 102. Instead of rejecting me privately, they involved their circle and made them verbally tease me, which cornered me and made me feel terrible. Story 103. I had a huge crush on a guy in high school. When talking one-on-one, he was nice to me. One day, he passed by me in the hallway at school with his friends. He joined in on making fun of me. I was the black sheep of the school and was constantly bullied. Within seconds, my interest in him disappeared. I didn't hold it against him. He still had his nice moments, but I definitely wasn't attracted to him anymore. It worked out anyway. He had already turned me down before all this happened, so that moment did me a favor. Story 104. He went on a self-pitying rant about how who obviously has a small trust fund because he never works but still gets by, even if not living large, really had to figure out how to get this leisure lifestyle where he could travel all the time and be a socialite gadfly, and how unfair it was that our friend X, a wealthy person, got to do that. I have worked very hard to get everything I have, so be quiet. Story 105. Blatantly ignored plans with no call or text, even after I made great efforts to accommodate their schedule. Story 106. She said she does not eat Indian food because they do not speak English. Now she is considered the racist employee. Story 107. She always left me on read for a day. She did not show up for dates and did not answer calls. She repeatedly brought up excuses days later. Story 108. It is to care about nothing in life but to receive love and attention and avoid talking about life obstacles and discovering who we really are. Story 109. Not a partner but a very close friend complained about everything she could possibly complain about. We would be walking somewhere and she would move out of people's way when there was no need to move. There was plenty of space for us to simply pass on the pavement, and then she would shout, "Yes, you're welcome," when they did not say thank you. They literally had no reason to say thank you. When she crossed the road, she would put her middle finger up to people who flashed their headlights to give her the clear to cross. She preferred they wave their hand in a go-ahead motion. Multiple times she went to the manager in a shop because their automatic doors opened too slowly. They were just normal doors opening at a normal speed. Life is peaceful now. Story 110. I am alcohol-free. I do not mind if a partner drinks responsibly, but I do not have the capacity to be with someone who has a problematic relationship with alcohol. She knew this. I showed up for a fancy date at 6 p.m., and she was intoxicated. Her words were slurred. She smelled of alcohol. Her eyes were rolling. She was a mess at dinner, spilling food and nearly falling off the stool. She denied it all, but that was it for me. Story 111. All non-intentional people. Not just about me, but about their own life in general. People who are drifting without any idea who they are, what they want, or why they do what they do. Story 112. I sat down on a first date, and her first question was, "Do you like to read?" Before I even took a sip of beer, I gave her a few authors I enjoy. She corrected me on one name because I did not use his full name. I was considering just moving to a different table to finish my drink and then go home. Story 113. Didn't know how to wash dishes. Then he lied and told me he loved doing dishes. We stayed together in an Airbnb. He proceeded to wash a plate on one side, half rinsed it, looked confused about where to put it. The dish rack was right there, then left the sudsy sponge in the sink without rinsing or wringing it out. I was watching the whole time. It was awkward. Story 114, showing me up in front of people we just met. Dude, you do not know these people from Adam, and you are doing that. Wow. Story 115. He neglected to get a license plate for 2 straight years, and his car got towed while we were eating sushi one night. Also, he rarely wore a seatbelt because his dad held the view that it was uncool. What a childish view. It has been over a year since the towing incident happened, and we have been broken up for a while too. But I have seen his newer car around town and he still does not have a license plate on it. He got it in January 2024. Story 116. He told me right away that he did not believe in divorce, saying people should be forced to work things out or in abortion, especially regarding his baby. I was totally surprised when I left. Story 117. Lies, narcissism, and hypocrisy led me to end relations with 4 of my 5 siblings. I come from a complicated family. Story 118. He drank from my soda without asking if it was okay. We were at Taco Bell talking, and he just reached over and drank some of my soda. It has been almost 25 years, and I am still upset about it. We broke up after a drawn-out fight in the middle of the Taco Bell front of house. It ended with him threatening to kill himself and me telling him to go ahead. As an aside, everyone who has ever threatened to kill themselves to try to manipulate me into staying with them is still alive. Story 119. Being a vegan. I have nothing against vegans. I admire them because I cannot do it. But for me, the differences are too big for a relationship to work. Story 120. Flaunting all their material goods, only to learn later that they were all on finance anyway. Story 121. He spent $250 on artisanal tea for himself, then wanted me to split the $26 Chinese food lunch check. Story 122. Most recently, after flirting with her a few times and our mutual friends encouraging us to connect, it was going well. She is very cool. Then last week, she wore a Donald Trump rubber bracelet. Done. Story 123. When they do not keep their word, they always promise and always fail. They also do not believe in their own personal abilities. Story 124. Found out she was telling 2 guys they were exclusive before adding me to the mix. If you cannot be honest with one person, let alone 2 people, you certainly are not going to be honest with me. Story 125. His car was disgusting, and he did not even mention it. No apologies for its condition or anything. I realized he probably lived like that too, so I was like, no. I just know I would have ended up cleaning after that pig every day for the rest of my life. Story 126. She was a broke student, and I made the mistake of helping her more than I should have. Once she asked for an allowance, that was it for me. Likewise, she lost any interest once she realized she wasn't getting anything from me anymore. Good riddance, honestly. Story 127. I remember admiring one woman from afar. Finally, I got close to her. The minute I heard her speak, all attraction disappeared. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.